Welcome to the Copper King Mine in Railroad. Today we have a neat old picture of the kids playing baseball in Bingham. We're going to talk about that. So, stay tuned.
Baseball players, look at this picture. Isn't it great? Notice all the kids. Now, there was a certain independence and toughness about the children of Bingham. Now, first, let's show you where it was at in the canyon. It was just up from the confluence of Upper Bingham that went up to Copperfield, that was left, and then Carr Fork Canyon. That went up to Highland Boy, and that was to the right. Note the red dot on the map. Now, this spot was once home to the Shawmut mill. The mill was part of the Shawmut group of mines. We have some pictures of that mill. The 1902 and 1907 Sanborn Far Insurance maps shows that mill. Now, these two pictures show the mill before the Carr Fork Bridge was built. The second picture is looking down the canyon, and that would be 1907. And then we have a colorized postcard looking up Carr Fork Canyon. You see that mill. Then pictures of the construction of that Carr Fork Bridge, and that would be 1911. Note the mill center left. You can see it through the bridge supports. The Shawmut Mill was erected 1900. Shawmut Milling and Mining Company. The mill processed 100 tons of ore a day from 1900 to 1908. Although the 1907 Sanborn map is labeled mill not in operation. The Utah Copper Company acquired the property in 1910. The 1913 map says Utah Copper's pumping plant. So I guess they turned it into a pumping plant. But notice the Swedish church across the street. It will be a fixture here for many years, seen in many pictures and on maps. Our picture shows those killer stairs. Look at those stairs. And the vertical tram that went up to Bingham and Garfield train station. Now, the early B&G line had passenger service, well, for a short time. This was the only way down to the town of Bingham. This photo shows the stairs, and the tram is under construction, so that would be around 1910 or 11. The spot was just below the large Carr Fork Bridge, or A-line bridge. The Shawmut Mill was raised sometime between 1913 and 1923. Now look at this picture. This is looking over that Swedish church, and the remains of the mill is in the picture. This April 20th, 1923, Ron Fox picture shows that empty spot. That's bottom center. Now this is neat because this is where they'll build the Robert Campbell Gemmell Memorial Club house. And we called it the Gemmell Club. Groundbreaking would be later that summer, July 30th, 1923. The cost of the building was $125,000. It will be remodeled in 1937, enlarging the whole building and changing that whole roof line. The Gemmell Club has a lot of history. They had fights and many other activities through the years. I did a video on the Gemmell Club, and you might want to check that out. That's pretty good. Anyway, here's a photo. By 1961, everything around the club was going. It will be demolished December 1975. Back to our picture. It looks like the kids are playing baseball. Now, it was probably fun to find an open, flat spot in this crowded, steep canyon to play ball. A fun story shared by Jon Simpson of the Bingham Canyon Facebook group. Now, this was about his grandfather, Clyde F. Smith. In the early 1930s, he was a teacher and then a principal of Highland Boys School. He was the principal during that bad 1932 fire. Here's some pictures of that fire. Now, it devastated that whole school. Luckily, everyone got out of that school safe. It's a great read and a wonderful history about this time and place. Back to the point. A fun part of this story was about the kids playing baseball. Let me quote. On Saturday, the boys liked to play baseball under the big steel bridge that crossed the canyon just below the dorm. The bridge towered 100 feet in the air, and the ore trains came from Kennecott copper mines many times a day. On the west side of the road that went under the bridge was one of the pilasters, and in front of it was home plate. They stepped off correct distance for first base, second base, and third base. They asked me if I wanted to umpire. I wondered where the right and center and left fields would be. I found out soon enough, and every boy wanted to be a fielder. Right fielder sat in the right girder of the bridge, center fielder in the center girder, and the left fielder in the left girder. Right off I objected. I said they would fall out of there and break their necks. They laughed and says I was not to worry about that. Unquote. He would be talking about the L-Line Bridge. Here's some pictures of that big old L-Line Bridge up in Highland Boy. Bingham has always had a strong tradition of baseball. They had high school teams and league teams. One of the first things they built when building the community of Copperton was a ball diamond. Now here's some early pictures of that ball field. It would have been west of where the park is now. When Bingham High School was built in Copperton in 1931, with help of the WPA, a beautiful ball field was built in the back. Back one more time to our picture. Now I think this was part of a 3-picture set taken on the same day. Note the car behind the shed. It's always in the same spot. But what is really fun is the last picture. It shows the kids now posing for the photographer. Is that little girl standing on the roof of the shed? Wow. So much is going on in this picture. You can see that large Carr Fork bridge in the background, the cribbing from that old Shawmut mill, and there's some old parts of a wagon sitting right there. The wash tub, and then there's a piece of the American Express building. Here, we'll show you the front of that American Express building. That was next to the tram. Well, so another great picture of Bingham Canyon and its people, or should I say, the kids of Bingham.